Today we're talking about the Guilty Gear degenerates. Recently, several allegations have surfaced against top players of the fighting game Guilty Gear Strive. And yes, these are blank sheets of paper, but it never hurts to have a prop. I'd like to heavily emphasize that there's a distinct difference between the general Guilty Gear community that's existed since 1998 and the newer Strive community. One of the accusers threatened me with a lawyer because I said I'd probably cover some of the stories coming out. I didn't even say who I was talking about, seeing as there's at least 7 different people posting stories. How do you have the resources to sue me for potentially talking about your case, but not for the person who allegedly is the source of all your trauma? You're not gonna go to the police, cause that'd be a waste of time, of course. But you're willing to dedicate upwards of a year on a frivolous lawsuit? Yeah, sure, alright. You then DM'd me to ask what my intentions were, said you were getting harassed after threatening me didn't work, then offered to help clarify details, and the same day privated your account and blocked me before I could even ask you a single question. However, thankfully, you're no Logan Paul, so I'm gonna call your bluff and talk about everything just because I can. USA! 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 I love America.
Does not make you safe from the law.
But I'm a sucker for suspense, so we'll save the best for last. Despite the rough start, you might be surprised to find that the Guilty Gear players are in fact guilty. Crazy stuff, I know. But the real question is, of what crime? Well, considering that one of today's cases involves a group of polyamorous fighting game players who lack basic social awareness, you can imagine the smell would be only one of many. I've seen what you guys did at EVO. You make me sick.
The EVO piss chair.
But don't worry, because Papa Tech is gonna fix it. I'm not getting near these documents without at least a spritz. Can you guys tell me if there's something on the lens still? No? Okay. As a gamer myself, between the 12 hours of Valorant and the occasional bathroom break, it can feel impossible to find time to fit in a shower. But what if I told you you could smell like a Chad King without requiring any basic hygiene? Well, don't get your hopes up because I'm a YouTuber, not a miracle worker. A shower takes 5 minutes. Get in. But I can give you the secret post-shower confidence booster you didn't know you needed. Scentbird is an affordable fragrance subscription that gives you a wide variety of designer brands like Prada, Versace, Gucci. That's right, you can even smell Gucci. Oh. They come in these neat little bags and have a portable magnetic locking mechanism. You just twist and spritz. Toss it in your pocket to re-up later, and you're good to go. Personally, my favorite out of the ones that I received is the Javon Rhino. Whoa, what are you wearing, bro? It smells nice. Oh, you know, it's just Javon Rhino. I'm a sucker for the woodsy smells, like I've been out cutting wood all day. That's why I also got the Amber Royale to try. It's got notes of cedar, orchids, jasmine, and Javon Rhino has sage leaves, creamy sandalwood, bergamot, fresh figs, and tonka beans. It's supposed to be a nod to the rhino's environment back in Ujung Kulon National Park. I didn't know it was an actually endangered species. There's like 60 of them left, but they look awesome. So save my homie Javon. If you look it up, full-size bottles of designer stuff like this usually go anywhere from $100 to like $200+. Unless you're planning to get free samples at the mall, this is a great alternative. How do I smell so good? Is that Javon? I smell so good! I shouldn't have done that. Use responsibly. Use responsibly. If you guys are interested in looks maxing and getting into some designer fragrances, I've been wearing these for the past couple weeks. They actually smell really good. And if you use my code TECHNICALS, you get 55% off, which is only about $8 on your first order for a 30-day supply. And if you don't like it, you can cancel whenever. No problem. Thank you so much to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. Now I got a few people who I think could use these a little more than me. Be right back. Hey cameraman, you getting this? Hey, you getting this, cameraman?
Hop off my nuts, nigga. I know what I'm doing.
Shit, fucking dumbass. Alright, first, we have Tempest. As you can see, 2 sticky notes, a little bit of string. Over here, Luca. Lots more sticky notes, lots more string. Serious stuff. Maybe a little more. Never be too sure. Javon? Is Javon here? Present. Shit, Javon. Careful. Tempest has been accused of SA by Claire and Anima. Why do people do that? Just say sexual assault. That's what we're talking about, right? Every time I hear this, it sounds like they're speaking Spanish. Yo, ese. Hey bro, what are you in for? Nothing, man. I was just essaying a few people. It's whatever. It sounds stupid every time. Stop it. Stop. I attempted to reach out to Claire for further clarification, no pun intended, but I was blocked just for asking. Go figure. And Anima's story is a pretty open and shut case. Starting off with Claire, it all began at Frosty Faustings 2023, where at an after party, a drunk Tempest was going about the room, complimenting competitors on their play. Once they reached Claire, Tempest allegedly grabbed her by the ass and skirt, lifted them up, and twirled her around. After being set down, Claire backed away to a nearby bench and was shortly followed by Tempest, who, quote, started rubbing Claire's thigh by her skirt and arm, then leaned in and whispered into their ear repeatedly, "I love you." When I sent a question to Claire, it was because when you read the DMs between both of them, she recounted the experience as being picked up by the waist at the after party. But in this Google Doc, she's now specifying it was the ass and skirt. And the only explanation for these conflicting accounts is that they were using lighter terms because they were scared, anxious, and didn't want to be confrontational. Sorry, the Javon is still in my throat. It's deep in there. Come on, Javon. If that is the case, why is someone who is timid, anxious, and adverse to conflict bringing up the topic 3 days later completely out of nowhere with the expressed purpose of establishing boundaries around comfortability and the nature of their friendship? What good would it do to misconstrue the severity of the situation in private if the goal was to create mutual understanding and remain, quote, really good friends? You also said you're a very communicative person when it comes to serious things like this to Tempest. Then a day later, you're saying you have a serious problem with them to a different person you're confiding in. I guess I'm just confused why you'd even waste the time lying to them in the first place. That doesn't really strike me as a great communicator. The distinction between ass and waist, I think, is also pretty important because those aren't lighter terms, like you mentioned. Those are different terms because they are, in fact, different parts of your body. One would have far more sexual implications in both the law and social situations, and those pretending otherwise are simply being dishonest. So when you're asking for public support and your story visibly changes, I think it's fair if someone needs further clarification. You're not above the basic standards of proof just because you forego the legal process to post it on the internet. Now in Tempest's response, they admit to being fairly intoxicated. Also, it's possible that Tempest doesn't properly recall the events of that evening given their drunken state, yet reaffirms it was the waist that was grabbed, doesn't remember rubbing Claire's thigh or arm, but admits to saying "I love you" and apologizes and takes full accountability for making her uncomfortable, regardless of what the details might have been. This was the exact same sentiment expressed to me when I reached out privately. It's pretty obvious advice, but if you get drunk to a point where you're consistently crossing boundaries, as we'll see happen again in the next story, you need to seriously consider being more responsible with your alcohol consumption. Not everyone is your friend, and you shouldn't be treating them as such. This particular case happened over a year and a half ago, and given the circumstances and the confession from Tempest, I can absolutely understand why Claire would feel uncomfortable. What I don't understand is how it's been so traumatic that it's managed to affect most of your life since it's happened. You have way more going on here if one drunk dude at an after party is causing this much emotional distress to where you're crying in the shower multiple times. Seriously, stop spending all your time on Discord and go see a therapist. Unfortunately, that's not even the worst story. The next person, Anima, makes it pretty evident why alcohol and anime fighters don't mix. At Combo Breaker 2024, it was Anima's birthday, and she had been drinking a little whiskey. Tempest asked if it'd be okay to come over to her hotel room. She agreed, and eventually her, Tempest, and a friend were all hanging out together with no problems. That is, until Tempest called over Anima and proceeded to hold her close and tell her they loved her while apparently having an erection. Then Tempest whispered quietly, "Your ass is fat." Hold on, because it gets much worse. Later that night, Tempest explains how they were too drunk and might need a place to crash for the night. Anima then offers her room as a quick solution, because 2 of the planned guests weren't going to be staying there until Thursday. Unsurprisingly, Tempest decided to sleep in her bed, and without asking, began to spontaneously cuddle, which after approximately 1 minute, Tempest whispered something again in her ear, followed by kissing her 3 times slowly on the face. God damn, that's weird. That's pretty much where the story ends, and it's wrapped up by a small confrontation in DMs over boundaries. This isn't even contested in Tempest's response. They admit the screenshots discussing it are completely accurate, states there was no sexual intent, and provides an apology. Well, I don't know about not having sexual intent, because in DMs you were saying Anima was in the middle of a fine line between romantic interest and a close friend. So if you're staying up to ponder your feelings for this person, how can you then say for sure there was no sexual intent after the fact? Especially if you're not going to contest the arousal mentioned in Anima's story. None of that tracks. And kissing the homies goodnight is one thing, but drunkenly cuddling and kissing an unwilling participant is textbook sexual assault. Tempest has since decided to part ways with their sponsor FlyQuest and is going to be stepping away from the FGC and social media indefinitely, which I think is the appropriate choice. But I hope more people will see this as a cautionary tale and hopefully understand the dangers with blurring the lines between friends, lovers, and alcohol. Now we have Luca. Give Luca a little spritz of the Amber Royale. Give Luca a little battle royale. Where we drop it, Luca? I had to record this in 2 parts because at the time of recording this, I've been notified that Luca is working on a response video. So I'll be right back after that drops. Forgot my Javon.
3:28 a.m.
Okay, I have watched Luca's video, and now I'm back. Our next suspect is Luca, aka Red I Am Not on Twitter, who has at least 5 people that posted a statement about them. This is either a bandwagon or the most devious motherfucker in Guilty Gear history. I don't know why you would choose to be polyamorous in esports of all places. Did you just wake up one day and say, you know what would be nice? Dating multiple people with no social skills, dating experience, or real hobbies. How could this possibly go wrong? Let's start with the most notable accuser, the top player Umisho. Umisho alleges that Luca, for a period of 3 to 5 months, was showering her with affection and propositions, which she liked, as she was desperate for it. But in hindsight, says it's clear they were only interested in me for sexual reasons and piling on pretty words to try and get me to want to do things with them. Fast forward to Frosty Faustings 2024, where yet another story is now taking place. Might as well be a tradition at this point. At this event, Umisho agreed to hook up with Luca, but by the time it rolled around, she changed her mind after talking to some friends. Then says Luca spent the entire weekend attempting to get her alone for what they assumed was the planned hookup, and even allegedly felt her up in a hotel room full of people as she repeatedly asked them to stop. Luca states in their response that most of the time spent together was with mutual friends, and denies that any groping even took place.
The time I did spend with her at the event itself was almost always surrounded by mutual friends we had. It's also entirely false that I tried to feel her up in a hotel room and was rejected. We only had a few intimate encounters at the event hotel itself. Both were in her hotel room.
Them both making out in a room full of people is actually corroborated by a different message from Bunny. And this evidence is a little further removed, but another player testified back in May that Razo indicated Umisho never expressed a concern for sexual assault. Next, Umisho says that in the dead hours of 5 a.m., Luca scared everyone in her hotel room by showing up at the door drunk to talk to her. This was corroborated by Nixia Dash, who is mentioned in the statement. However, there's some missing context here. Luca shows in their response that Katie, aka the FlyQuest player Razo, can corroborate that they did in fact reach out ahead of time to notify of their arrival. And looking at the DMs, it's very obvious that Luca was going up to meet Razo, not Umisho. All of the claims considered, at face value, Umisho presents a pretty terrible experience, so you can imagine my shock when the next thing she decided to do was to have sex with Luca. I kept them around, and I'm ashamed to say I even gave them what they came for in the first place. What a twist! Remember at the beginning when Umisho said Luca was clearly only interested in them for sexual reasons? Well, in DMs, she seems to be the one worried about using Luca for sex. I hope you can believe that I wasn't just using you for sex. I'd not felt that way in a long time, and the resulting mania got the best of me. I'm sorry you had to feel that way too. Okay, now I'm definitely confused. Her response to that DM being shown is that she was purely trying to satisfy Luca so they'd stop spreading rumors behind her back. However, these rumors aren't explained or substantiated. Umisho follows up by saying she's scared half to death of this person, and they could ruin her life in minutes if they wanted to with the messages she sent them. Which I can only assume is alluding to concerns of revenge porn, and I think was even elaborated upon by Umisho. It seems like this concern was already addressed months before any of this coming out though.
This doesn't make that much sense since she asked me directly back in March, about a month after we broke up, to delete any compromising pictures I had of her, since she told me she was anxious about it, and after she requested proof and I sent it, she blocked me on everything. She also left out mentioning anything after the actual event itself, which I thought was pretty strange to leave out. I spent a few days over at her house after the event itself because of complications with my flight, which is where, after having sex, she asked me out and we started a relationship.
She then asked Luca out, and they started dating, planned a 2-week trip to see each other, then broke up right before she was expected to go. As an outside observer, like everyone else, I would seriously need more context to believe a single word here. Umisho is calling Luca an idiot, manipulator, and an abuser, yet was desperate for the attention, chose to have sex with them, apologized for possibly making them feel like she was using them, asked them out, and went as far as deleting all of their Discord messages.
I ran into a bit of a roadblock when I was first getting screenshots to talk about my experience with her, because she went back into our Discord DMs and deleted every single message she sent to me on Discord.
And the explanation for doing it only leaves more questions than answers, because why would you have to lie about being manic if the goal was to simply give a satisfactory response? And what are the rumors from Luca that would require such a roundabout method in the first place? Not to mention she changed her view on Luca after seeing Bunny's story and listening to a friend? And to be honest, I'm not exactly certain of Luca's character either. The one who was jumping to a different person between Bunny, Razzo, and Umisho seemingly every hour of this event. Call me old-fashioned, but that's fucking weird. I'd also like to see Umisho eventually provide some witness testimony if this alleged groping really did happen in a room full of people, because all we have right now is a corroborated story of you both making out, which you never mentioned in your original post, by the way. Next on our list is Rain, who, yep, also has me blocked. But that's probably for the best, because this is the dumbest story yet. I shared a weird experience I had at Combo Breaker 2024 with Luca. At Combo Breaker 2024, Rain states that she was worried she might fit into Luca's type, after learning what it was from a friend, and found it weird that they were now receiving more attention from Luca than they usually do. Luca is a Strive player who I have been around at like multiple events, and at Combo Breaker was basically the first time they acknowledged my existence on the day where I was wearing my dress at Strive pools. Just thinking about what I've been told about Luca, and then them giving me a lot of attention out of nowhere felt really weird. Like saying hi to Rain several times and asking her a question about her ex, which she declined to comment on, as to avoid spreading rumors. Luca responded that it was fine, and while placing a hand on her shoulder, mentioned they hoped she was doing okay. This apparently soured her night. Rain also recounts how she went into the bathroom and saw Luca with 2 other people. Luca told someone to say hi to her, and she might have heard them say, "This was the girl I was talking about." Ooh. I don't know, that night was kind of the first night I felt like I sorta was being objectified, and it was kinda unsettling. I really hope it's nothing more than them being drunk. At points I didn't mind the attention either. I had this weird back and forth in my mind where I was like, I know this might not be good, but also I sorta like it, but also not really, but also I sorta did? Real victims come out with stories about rape, sexual assault, grooming, etc. And here comes Rain smack dab in the middle to inform us if they were happy about the positive attention they were receiving from a drunk guy and them hoping that she was okay. Just because you see an allegation on the timeline does not mean that it's an invitation. But I'm guessing you sorta like the attention, but also not really, but also you sorta do?
This is so fucked. I'm so sorry this happened to either of you.
No, nothing that happened here is fucked. Stop enabling this stupid shit with your empty condolences. You're not helping anyone. In fact, you are actively making it worse by promoting these useless stories from bored narcissists. Originally, I was going to talk about the document from Ori, but they deleted their tweet, and it was essentially just complaining about Luca not responding to their messages and how their relationship was bad. Whatever, moving on. This is a quick one, and I apologize ahead of time for the brain rot, but stay with me. 2D accused Luca of telling friends how much she wanted to fuck them and attempted to burn down her relationship with an ex named Corey. The first allegation is corroborated by an anonymous witness testimony who apparently overheard this conversation at CEO Taku. Luca admits to having feelings for her at the time, but calls the rest some hot shit. This allegation is plausible, but it's basically just gossip given that this is the only evidence. So I'll leave it at that. The second claim is in reference to Luca asking 2D about a rumor they heard about her cheating on her ex. My entire understanding of the relationship was from a friend Mac, who's only heard Corey's side. Said something like y'all were on and off for a while and Corey claimed you cheated or something, which is why I wanted to ask for your side on what happened instead of just being like, oh yeah, makes sense. I don't think trying to burn down your relationship is a fair characterization here, because it's pretty obvious in DMs that Luca's just asking for clarification. Someone who wants to spread rumors and cause drama will just go and do that. They don't usually ask someone for the truth privately. What Luca was doing was pretending to be a trusting ear. All that to spread drama like a scum. However, she provides no evidence of them spreading drama like a scum, and even when Luca recounts the experience in a public server, they refrain from giving the juicy details, which doesn't exactly support her accusation either. So I guess that concludes the claims from 2D, which has to be the most high school level drama besides Rain out of this entire Strive dumpster fire. Oh, and she also has me blocked. We're finally here. The beginning and the end of all these allegations. The person referenced in so many other stories, Bunny. At the beginning of their most recent document, Bunny says, "I'm not someone who starts or likes drama." Bull fucking shit. This is 12 pages and could have easily been handled privately if sent to the right people. Also, you threatened to get a lawyer for a YouTuber. If your goal was to not start drama, congratulations. You failed. Why are you choosing to start shit with someone, then acting like you're in any real danger because you got a little backlash? This is the exact same thing Leffen does, and it's insulting you'd think I'd fall for such a blatantly manipulative tactic. No one in my community has ever harmed anyone as a result of online disagreements, and there's absolutely zero reason to think they would. Your paranoid delusions aren't my problem. I've seen many posts and comments stating, why not file police reports? Why post documents on the internet? Hypothetically, if I filed a report and it did not hold up, people would discredit my sexual assault more than they have. Posting what I did not only brought immediate attention to it, but also brought immediate action within our community. Since we're engaging in hypotheticals, you posted a public document with the expectation that you'd get immediate results from the internet, right? Yet you didn't think about what publicizing a story means? Are you new to the internet?
If you need more information, please ask. I will provide anything within reason.
Yeah, so I guess that was a fucking lie. Anyways, with that settled, we find ourselves back at it again at Fondling Faustings 2024, where Bunny alleges that Luca sexually assaulted them at the New Head hotel room. More specifically, that while cuddling in bed, Luca tried to shove their hand down Bunny's pants. Well, how did we get to this point? The weeks leading up to the event, Bunny brought up, quote, penciling Luca in for some cuddling if they were into that, which Luca replied that they would be interested. Further discussion around the details of cuddling took place. Then a few days later, Luca said, I wouldn't mind taking naps with you. Being able to take a break from feeling drained in crowds to just cozy up next to you and fall asleep sounds dreamy. Bunny, you're cute. Luca, and you're adorable. Fast forward to the event, where Bunny decides to go take a nap. They're saying intentions were not expressed beforehand, and the way it's explained makes it seem like Luca just jumped into the bed out of nowhere. Even the witness testimonies gathered by Bunny share a similar awkward or uncomfortable vibe in the room. If we're just talking about how this started and not the alleged assault, I think if you're flirting for weeks, bring up cuddling, and discuss napping together at this specific event, then during the event, you go to take a nap, it's not surprising they'd assume cuddling would be okay. And if you had a problem, you should have mentioned that. Especially if it was your idea to begin with. Because when you write stuff like, they did not ask to join me in bed, and use testimonies from people who have no prior knowledge of your conversations, I feel like you want me to be appalled. But this was clearly a planned thing that was talked about frequently, and you omitted those DMs in not only your original post, but the comprehensive documents sent to TOs as well. So I had to go find them in Luca's response.
Some wording I saw thrown around a lot is that I followed Bunny into the room and that I crawled into the bed with him without any prior invitation. This is patently false. We were spending time together during my pool at Frosty, as shown in this clip here.
Brink of going to the losers, but one character switched the momentum.
And after my pool match was finished, we both agreed to go up to the room to take a nap together and cuddle.
Also, the wording aside, there's nowhere stating anywhere that you were against it. In fact, there's a couple messages that would suggest the exact opposite. I don't let just any person cuddle me. I thought it was more than obvious that there was a romantic interest. And I don't know what about this weekend made you even think I wasn't interested, when I was trying to hold your hand and hug you every time I saw you. My point with all this being that your framing here seems a little unnecessary and at worst flat out dishonest, especially if you believe your allegation of sexual assault is already cut and dry. There would be no point to retroactively make things worse. As far as Luca allegedly shoving their hand down your pants, you state that you said no, pulled away multiple times, and that the assault didn't stop until someone knocked on the door and you got up, and that you clearly communicated both vocally and physically that you were not okay with it. Luca is saying that their hands were down by your lower mid-region, but they immediately apologized and stopped once you notified them that you were asexual. Then claims you both went to sleep until you heard a knock at the door.
Here's a statement from Lucian SFL, the person who was at the door, who noted that Valor was awake whenever the door was answered, which Bunny stated that Valor was completely asleep the entire time. Bunny came back to bed after answering the door, which all things considered would be a pretty strange thing to do if they were being physically restrained and assaulted the entire time, and that we both left the room together to head downstairs.
I reached out to Valor privately to see if he'd heard anything taking place between you two, seeing as he was in the bed right next to you. But he was reportedly in and out of sleep, trying to take a nap, and only woke up once the knock on the door occurred. Moving on, Luca also states that you both went back to the same hotel room the next day to cuddle, and they kept their hands above waist to respect your boundaries. If Luca's version of events is inaccurate, and they were actively disrespecting your boundaries up until the knock on the door, I'd really like to hear from Bunny about the next day of cuddling, which they didn't address in their document. Bunny stated that there was clear communication in both verbal and physical reactions to what Luca was doing. But if you look at the details, lied about being asexual instead of just saying they're uncomfortable, didn't say anything when Luca got into the bed in the first place, but rather jokingly signaled for Valor to join them instead of saying they were uncomfortable, and in DMs describes how they're not good with physical affection or saying things, and it's hard for them to say no and expect for Luca to listen because of past trauma. Taking all of those reactions into account, I think it's fairly unlikely that the communication was as clear as Bunny is stating. It's more than likely that Bunny might have been uncomfortable, but used things like lying about their sexuality or shifting positions in bed as their clear indicators of discomfort. However, lying about your sexuality is not clear communication. Another factor that I don't think is being considered enough here is the case between Luca and Umisho, as the resulting jealousy from Bunny is explicitly relayed through DMs. If you felt a little jealous about Katie and Maddie being around each other, I want you to think about how I felt sitting there and finding out you and Claire had a thing, because you both are suddenly full-on making out in a bed. I have never tried to be poly, and I honestly have no idea if I can be. Bunny also said they were seeing where things went, but it seems like neither of them truly had the right idea of what the other's intentions were. How am I supposed to assume that this isn't just another case of miscommunication? That's what they said it was, but I guess now it's a clear-cut instance of sexual assault. Is it possible that this is just a case of being a fuckboy gone wrong, parentheses sexual? To be honest, that's what it's starting to sound like to me. The whole file I have on Luca is degenerate as fuck, don't get me wrong. But the people all coming out with stories are framing things in a certain way where they're not accountable for their own situation at all. And it's all Luca's fault. And while Luca might not have been as emotionally available as they could have been, that's not exactly TwitLonger material. If you're a grown-ass adult and someone being nice to you is enough to get you to do whatever they want, then I have a great timeshare opportunity in New Jersey that I think you'd love. Did I mention your hair looks amazing today? We got cuddling gone wrong allegations, polyamorous hookups, bad relationships, compliments, and rumors. The only case with Luca that I think deserves a further look is maybe Bunny's. And I would have absolutely loved to investigate it. But unfortunately, this is also the only person who threatened to get a lawyer despite saying they'd be willing to answer questions. So I doubt that'll happen. If you didn't want a bunch of random people's input and YouTubers making money off of it, maybe don't plaster your shit with a clickable headline on the biggest social media platform of our generation. But I'll probably still get hundreds of comments from the crowd who blindly reply, "Sorry this happened," on literally everything without a single critical thought in their head. In conclusion, I'm glad that Tempest is voluntarily stepping away from the FGC, and while I think Luca is a Discord fuckboy, I need way more evidence before I can see any real conviction here. But that probably doesn't matter because the public already has their verdict, and I'm certain they'll both be banned for life regardless. This has been the Guilty Gear Degenerates. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this, and if you want to get rid of that disgusting smell lingering from these stories, use code TECHNICALS and get 55% off your first order of Scentbird. You'll thank me. If you have any stories you'd like to see covered in the future, send me an email here and I'll see what I can do. Thank you to my lovely patrons. You guys make all of this possible. I will have the Gucci Rat behind the scenes ready for you soon, I promise. And as always, until next time.